All right, guys, this is I don't know, sort of off the top of my head video, but I'm just gonna show you this page from Fatal as I go over it because I don't have like artifacts from the internet to specifically talk about. So enjoy this beautiful double page spread by Charlie Snogans. He is fantastic. I've had so much fun working on this project with him, and I think that anybody that backs it is going to uh, just love it. So really appreciate it. If you haven't signed up to the mailing list, please do so, or the pre-launch page, and really appreciate you. All right, so I've been seeing a lot of people on Twitter specifically and elsewhere who are talking about success in comics and what is the future of comics. The future of crowdfunding might not necessarily be the future of comics. They might not be one and the same. And for so long, I've been thinking about crowdfunding as like, I guess a facet of the comics, the future of comics. And I think it is. But I think it's easy to get wrapped up into crowdfunding being the end game. I think there's a ton more that could be done that'll help comics, but crowdfunding is certainly a part of it. I just don't think it is all of it. Although that again, it's easy to get wrapped up into crowdfunding because it is so time intensive, and it's so difficult to do right, and you always want to be improving and all that kind of stuff. So the reason I bring this up is because a lot of people have been saying, is Cyberfrog that successful? Can you compare it to mainstream comics and mainstream comic sales? I did yesterday on a stream, uh, because you look at the dollar amount and it's hard not to make comparisons. It's also a comic book, and it's hard not to make comparisons with what the mainstream comic book industry is doing. And so you want to make those comparisons. It's also great for competition. Competition makes everyone more happy. It's great. And so why could it not be compared to the mainstream? Why is making $1 million crowdfunding a comic book not the same as selling, hundreds of thousands of comic books through, the direct market? Why is it not the same thing? Price point is the big factor. Having said that, the price point of comics through comic shops is actually quite high. And I think it's a little bit higher than we give it credit for. In that there are so many comic book creators that are making those comic books and selling them through the direct market, they are sometimes told that they are not allowed to promote their books themselves. They're told by publishers, sometimes from some publishers, specifically Image. I've heard a story that Image does not allow certain people to really go out of their way to promote their comics and try to get comic book shops to order their books. That's mind blowing. I cannot believe that. And so creators are really dependent upon publishers. They're really dependent upon Diamond distribution, which has its own slew of problems. And therefore, you've got creators that are out there trying to find work, and they will take any job they can find. They'll also have to take on other things besides making comics. Now, for me, the dream is to just make comics full time, and that's the big gig. That's what you're doing, is making comics. I realize that would be a very blessed position to be in. There are really relatively very few people that can truly say they make comics full time, and they're doing other things on the side, especially writers. And writing comics is sort of a hobby that they may or may not get paid for on the side. Even some pretty well-known comic book writers that you might be shocked to hear that they have a side job. Comics is not the only thing that they do. So what is success in comics? To me, it is getting a book out to enough people that you can afford the print run, that the print run makes sense to do. People get their books, they enjoy it, and they want to continue the story and buy more books from you. To me, that's success. Not only that, but making a little bit of money for myself. And when I say a little bit of money, I mean I want to get paid for my effort, my time and effort in making the book. I don't want it to be a non-profit venture. Okay. I don't think I need to make $1 million for it to be successful. $1 million is outstandingly successful. If you're working through the direct market and you're selling your own comics, or you're selling comics through a publisher, maybe success to you is getting a book made and getting your name out there. And but I've got to ask though, how many times, how many books do you put out just for the sake of putting out a book and not getting paid at all? Eventually, and at some point, you want to write full time. I'm sure of it. If it's just a project you have on the side and you want to leave it at that, that's cool. But your emphasis, your focus is going to be elsewhere in order to pay your bills. Um, I just what I hate seeing is that somebody's being successful. Any number of people are being successful in comics, and you'll have immediately you'll have naysayers coming in and trying to explain away the success of it. Why is it not successful? I've seen this all the way from the biggest crowdfunding project, Cyberfrog, biggest crowdfunded comic book on Indiegogo. I don't know the specifics, but it's massive. People saying it with Cyberfrog, but it all the way down to Downcast. Even I've had people immediately litigating whether Downcast 2 is successful. I don't even have the book yet. Trying to decide if it was successful or not. And so, and I'm always wondering that myself. I can tell you, Downcast, even though the first book made 31,000, second book made 37,000 so far, almost 38. It's been very successful, extremely successful, especially for my first comic book. I was able to do what amounts to like 104 pages, I think, something like 104 pages of pure comic book content, including a backup story as well. So that would make it a little bit longer. But that's extremely successful for making a book for the first time. Beyond that, there is money, there's profit, there's a little bit of profit, not a ton of profit for the amount of work that I put into it, but there's still profit. It's still what I would consider a success. To me, beyond that, there's this other measure of success, and that is ensuring future success. And I think this is the problem that a lot of people get trapped into. I don't know, was my light in front of my face the whole time? Sorry if it was. But I think this is why comic book creators focus so much on, hey, I just need to get this book into the comic book shop. If I don't make a single cent on this thing, I'm still successful. I'm going to keep doing it. That's because they're looking for future successes. Now, if a campaign or a book is successful in getting you future work or getting you more sales in the future or getting you more fans to sort of snowball your career, that's a massive success. It's really hard to determine as well, which is why actually crowdfunding is pretty great for that. It's amazing for snowballing people. It's amazing for building a mailing list. I imagine if I ever, for instance, wrote something for Dynamite Comics, or I wrote something for maybe another publisher or something, somebody else hired me to do their own crowdfunding campaign. They hired me because I have a mailing list and because I've built up some kind of reputation from these other books that maybe didn't make me so much money. That's another factor in success as well in making comics. Anyway, so some of my thoughts there. I would love to know what you think success is in creating indie comics. For me, I felt like it's been pretty successful, and so I'm going to continue making books. Not only that, but I want to snowball it and make them better and better. So that's why I'm showing you this page from Fatal. Downcast 2 is I'm just waiting to get it in the mail, and as soon as I do, I will ship it out to everybody. It's been amazing, so I appreciate all the support. Yeah, I look forward to getting you the next books. I have so many ideas, and I'd love to ultimately the big line of success is I would love to have some kind of IP, some kind of story and world that people love and they come back to time and time again, or they come back to in growing numbers every time I add to it. And I could just continue to make IP larger and just build out my story, my world, my universe, and just keep going there. Obviously, I'm not going to do that unless there's demand for it, but this is the best way to get started, which is making books. So appreciate it, and I will see you all in the next video. Bye.